good to see your face.
I know, you too. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. It's this world that we live in now where I'm trying to think back as to when and how we actually met. But
I think it was, I heard you on Holly's podcast and you won the ad break.
Yeah.
And I loved the idea of what you were doing. So I think I just emailed and said, hi.
Yeah.
I think what you're doing is great. And then we had a long chat on the phone.
Yeah, exactly.
I like to waffle.
No, waffling's good. We like to waffle here.
How are you? Are you all right?
Yeah, not bad. Not bad. Managed to get out into the sun this morning, which was good for the well-being and safety of me and the kids. But yeah, I'm good. How are you? You all right?
Yeah, I think so. Oh my God, it's like this, isn't it? It's just this emotional roller coaster all round. Like the parents, the children, everyone is just, it's crazy. Like one day you're fine, the next day it's meltdown central. Yeah. So yeah, but I don't know how you're doing this with a newborn. You're doing so well. Oh my goodness.
Thank you. Well, I think it's one of those things. It's never felt more appropriate to take one day at a time. And that's very much how I feel. And I think what is interesting about this whole period is that it's teaching us a lot about slowing down. Yeah. And just having to literally live in the moment. And I feel very much like I finally got that. Yeah. Because you've got no other pressures from outside. I mean, I've said this before, but my life admin list is diminished because you can't do half the things you used to be able to do. So it's kind of forced you to stop. Yeah. And I do feel a lot better for it. And it's meaning that I think I can just about cope with juggling 2 under 5 and then a newborn and a business. It has its moments, I'll be honest with you. There's been some times, there's been some tears, there's been some long walks, nearly alone.
It is hard. It's hard. I've been there. And other logistics has actually been so nice. Like that's what bogs my head down a lot. We've got kind of 15 down to 6. So our daily, we're in the taxi service realm as well as dealing with younger children, and it just got a bit ridiculous. So we're kind of. Yeah, I get you. We're totally feeling the same. Just slow it all down. This is the positive that's coming out of this.
Totally. Yeah, it does. It feels it's a bit bizarre. I think for a lot of people, depending on how your situation is. I know my parents are very frustrated, very bored. I think people are perhaps on their own, are feeling very anxious, and then you've got the other extreme where you've got kids at home, and it's incredibly intense. And it's a totally different type of stress. Yeah, but it's still stress, and I think. For you, for me, for a lot of people who'll be listening, having a business to somehow keep afloat at the same time just adds a whole new layer onto it.
It is. It's tough.
It's insane. And I think that, there's been rightly a lot of conversation about mental health, and appropriately it's the start of Mental Health Awareness Week. Which is great. And I think that I always found it interesting when all of this kicked off that there was a lot of talk about mental health, and it wasn't just abandoned. Before all this kicked off, there was growing awareness, and then I thought maybe when this actually happened, everyone would be in panic stations, and people would forget the fact that more now than ever we need to look after ourselves.
Yeah, we do.
But what I've noticed is there's been relatively little discussion around when you're running your business. How you can somehow keep yourself mentally together when it's stressful enough at the best of times, but now you've got this added layer of pressure, not only potentially keeping your business afloat or suddenly reacting to extreme levels of demand which you probably never experienced before. And then the pressures of looking after your team, do I pivot, don't I pivot?
It's the responsibility of everything.
Huge amount of responsibility.
Yeah, it's not spoken about enough. It's brilliant. Mental health awareness is so it's improved so much in terms of it's out there now, which is just brilliant. But you're right. I think this little niche of people who are running businesses, be it small, be it large, whichever, it's really hard, and it's just not spoken about. I see it in our event industry, and everyone's kind of. There's this front on the whole time, and it's not actually particularly honest. I think people are struggling, but they're worried if they say it might have a detrimental effect on their business or anything like that. So yeah, we've definitely noticed in the last couple of years, because it's not been easy for a couple of years really. So yeah, that's why I've become more passionate about that area, because you have to grow as a business owner as well, really, to learn to manage it.
Yeah. And there's a lot of talk about growing sort of business skills, but not growing those skills which you need just to be able to lead and to grow resilience and all of those things, which all comes back down to your mental well-being. Anyway, tell us a bit about your journey. You started fresh out of uni with your first business, so you've been through some bumps in the road, so you can probably talk very I'm
very aware we've got a really long story, so I don't want to go on about it for ages because I could go on, but I won't. But just so people have a background of where I'm coming from, my husband and I set up a business. Well, it was literally, we met at university and we were interior architects by trade, and we set up an architecture and design practice about 2 years after uni. Again, that was almost in a recession, so it was really hard to get a job. I kind of pulled the female card and went in as a receptionist at an architect's, just to think, well, I'm going to have to work my way up there. Anyway, I'm not going to go into detail because I could, but I won't. Long story short, we set up our own practice. We were doing a lot of all sorts of design. Even in that business, we had to diversify, because an architecture project would take a year. And we were like, well, we haven't got any money. So we took on graphic design projects and things like that. Anyway, that carried on. We then had another moment of going, oh my God, we have no money, because this is all self-funded. We've done this from the kitchen table with no financial support at all. And we were like, well, we learned to make architectural models within this architecture practice that I learnt in. So we were like, oh, let's see if anyone local wants an architectural model. This is when we were in London. So we started up an architectural model making company, and that actually went really well. So the two companies for a while ran side by side. And we then also had our first child quite young. So we brought in a friend of ours who helped run the architectural model making company with Dominic, and I came off of that company. So yeah, the two companies joined, well, they were sort of hand in hand for a good few years, which was good. And then the point of me telling the story is, with the architectural practice, we bought a laser cutter. And that's where we started playing with it, with graphic design. And we thought, oh, this is really cool. So about 2009, we were already using laser cutting within our graphic design projects for brands and things, for their, I don't know, their catalogues or anything like that. We also had a sort of shop front, so we would start displaying things, and people would walk past and see, and we ended up doing invitations for people's weddings. And somebody then worked at Harrods, so we started getting jobs for Harrods Elite pretty quickly. So we were like, okay, this is turning into something, and that was how Couture was born, which is now 11 years old this year. So that has been our main company for the last 11 years. So 2009, we closed the model shop. Our friend wanted to become a teacher, but it was also another recession. So it was one of the top 3 in the country, and literally overnight the work ran out because all the architects stopped working. So we kind of made that decision, let's call it a day. This other thing looks like it's happening. And it was a natural kind of end. So the design studio funded Couture startup, and that's how that began. It then became our own company. So we design and create super high-end stationery for brands, sort of almost corporate work as well as private clients. And we work predominantly with the event industry. So we work with event planners, mostly in the UK, but also abroad. We do quite a lot of work in America and UAE and things. So yeah, here's one here, so you can see what I'm talking about. They're very three-dimensional.
Yes,
kind of
stunning.
Invitations.
I've been having conversations on Instagram with people who've seen your work through this build up to this conversation, and they're just like, it's incredible. Why can't I buy these things? And I'm like, well, talk to Helen.
Yeah, it's really,
they are absolutely amazing.
It's really bespoke, and it has been bespoke for a long time. We did dabble in retail, and we got about 200 stockists back in the day, and we were in Selfridges and things like that. So we did, that was a good experience, but it's a whole other market. It's completely different. So, yeah, we predominantly work, like I say, with, you know, people like Harrods. We've worked with Molton Brown, Jimmy Choo, you know, those sorts of brands, as well as the private clients. So super high-end events and weddings and parties and things. But it's all our work is really storytelling, and it's all got a concept behind it, and it's completely unique. So, so yeah, we've been running that for 11 years, and we had manufacturing and design. So again, that's almost two different businesses. And then recently we've divided the company into two, and manufacturing is now its own company, and the laser cutters have gone elsewhere. And they're being run by our production manager. So we still have a shareholding in it, but he invested, and that's his kind of baby now. And we are focusing on the design side.
Right.
So it's been a massive adjustment. That, I mean, that's something obviously I can talk about. We wanted to go into retail heavily, and we wanted to make sure nothing was being sent to China. So we needed a new machine. We had 3 laser cutters already in our big studio in London, but we needed investment to get that machine. So we took 2 years building up a plan and everything, and we got the investment, and we got the machine. But what then happened, the machine, we moved our family and that right up to Bedfordshire up here. So we had a couple of years where Tom and I were literally commuting to London from Bedfordshire for like 2.5 hours a day. It was crazy. So that was really hard. But then our investor decided he wasn't going to give us a second tranche of the money, which is what we needed in order to grow the team and create the retail. So that was a massive blow. And at that point, that's where we've had the beginning of 2 years of difficulty, just trying to manage, you know, what do you do in that situation? So we always had this sort of, there had to be a plan B for that level of machinery. So that, like I say, is now running on its own as a trade service. But we then have had to strip everything back. So we have had to close the London office. And that was a beautiful studio that we renovated ourselves, and that was hard to let go of. And that was only 2013 when we had our 3rd baby as well. So it was quite, yeah, that was tough. And then, yeah, more recently, we then had the lovely Brexit to deal with, which stopped all our corporate work. So we were, oh God. So we thought, right, enough, we're going to strip it right back. And that's what we've done. So actually, by doing that this year, what we're going through now, we feel like we went through all of that last year with Brexit.
Yeah.
We worked remotely with our team for a year. So we had to settle that up, and that's something we thought we could never do. But we did, and it worked. We unfortunately had to make a couple of redundancies, which was the toughest thing ever. That's the worst part, and that's something we'll touch on in, you know, how you deal with that. How do you, if you're a decent human, which most of us are, you're hiring people who you want on your team, and it's really tough having to go through that. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at now. So we're back to just being us, with a freelance team, and we have a lovely team of mums who come and help make our products, and that's been a nice shift. They're really enjoying doing that, flexible working for them. And we still have our designer Claire, who works for us. She's currently on maternity leave. So, and then we have some freelancers. So we've, like I say, we're kind of going through what everyone's sort of having to adjust to. We've been through that. And whilst it's good, it's not easy. So yeah, in a nutshell. And then last year we set up Mantle, which
is about Mantle.
Yeah, that came about. Every Christmas we would gift our couture clients some beautiful Christmas, I say Christmas card, but it was never just a card. It was an amazing hamper full of paper goods and, you know, decoration. Or it was we had a 3-dimensional advent calendar one year, which was amazing. And it was a really special thing. And we stopped doing it for a couple of years. And last year I was like, we've got to reconnect with our clients. But with Brexit, it wasn't appropriate to be sending lavish things, you know, it didn't feel right. So a long time ago, I had this idea of the positivity packs of prompt cards, which I wanted to do for retail, but it never really happened. So I kind of remembered that. And then as a team, we created this new pack, which are sort of daily prompt cards that you have in your home to help your mental health and well-being. And we've always wanted to make products that really make a difference for people. So it really struck a chord. We sent them out and they landed on Valentine's Day and everybody loved them. It got shared a lot online, and just the response just made us go, you know what, this could be a really nice separate company where we're making a difference with our product. Because whilst couture, we adore the craftsmanship and the level of work, but it is for a very luxury market, and that's fine, and we enjoy doing that. But once they're done, they're sort of done. They keep them forever because they're amazing, but we wanted our work to kind of make a real difference to people's everyday. Yeah. So that's how Mantle was born, and it happens that now it's kind of needed more than ever. So
incredible, serendipitous of sorts, I suppose.
Yeah. So yeah, sorry, that's a waffly.
No, and it brings us to, it's, you know, it feels very appropriate that this is where you are landing with the business right now and in these times, with this, you know, renewed focus on Mantle, because how are things with couture in this time at the moment?
So the event industry is obviously one of the worst hit, and it literally turned off overnight. So every single job was postponed overnight. There was a kind of belief that things were going to come back in the autumn, but it's not. It's going to be next year. So we're kind of okay, because our work often starts a year before an event anyway. But for some people in the industry, such as caterers or, you know, people, production companies, it's scary. It's a really scary time. So we were beginning to focus really on working with brands and working on packaging and gifting and things like that. So we will pursue that. We still have inquiries and things coming in for next year. So we're working on that behind the scenes. But we're having a break from it really to just focus on Mantle at the moment, and use the time to get your head together after a crazy few years.
yeah, exactly. Incredible. So, you know, looking back, what would you said across that roller coaster of time that you've been through, and I mean, you're still here to tell the tale, what have been, you think, probably the biggest challenges that really stand out for you?
I think the biggest challenge is your own energy, trying to keep that going when you're managing a team, when you're managing your family. It's trying to keep that going. So, I mean, do you want to go, if I start on how the kind of words, I had to write notes because I forget.
Yeah, no, take us through.
the kind of, I think for where we're at now, all I can do is kind of explain our own learnings, if you like, what's happened. And I think first and foremost, the biggest thing you've got to do is get your oxygen mask on first, and you've got to make time for yourself. So at the moment, like you said earlier, everyone's in such a different situation. Some people are on their own, some people are juggling families. Everyone is unique. There's no one in an easier position or harder position. It's a very unique time. So the one thing I'd say is carve out an hour in your day, just to yourself. If that means getting up at 6 a.m. before your family, if you can do it, go for a walk, do whatever you want to do, run, meditate, whatever works. It's not necessarily the time to start joining the 5 a.m. club and putting that pressure on yourself. But I do think, you know, you do need to have headspace. So if you can work with your partner, or if you're on your own, yeah, you have headspace, but get out for exercise. Or if you're on your own, join a class where you're in a community feeling, you know, to just get you away from the everyday. So yeah, I'd say first and foremost, get yourself together first. And then I think that your employees and your clients are your priority. So first, I think at the beginning of lockdown, when all this happened, your immediate reaction has to be your family, as in your business family. So your employees, you know, I'm pretty sure everyone would have had a mad rush trying to get all the remote working set up, and you wouldn't have had time to think for yourselves. But hopefully now that's settled in and you're kind of getting there. But you have to make the time for yourself to figure out, okay, how am I going to organize this? You need to be organized as much as possible. So use your Asana or your project management to avoid any kind of unnecessary stresses. You know, really focus on your team. I mean, I'll come to that in a moment, but the daily check-ins is vital, and it lifts you up as well. You know, if you might not feel like it and you might not want to, but it's our responsibility as owners, and we need to do that. So yeah, I think just kind of getting organized helped massively. I think check in on social media. So my first kind of point was about observation. So just sit back and observe. Don't rush in and panic and go, oh my God, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
Kind of see what's going on first. Have a look on social media, but don't drown yourself in it and cause a comparison game, because that's so dangerous.
So easy to do.
Everyone's going through the same thing, even if it doesn't look like it. So, but you can use it for the good. So look at how maybe their customers or clients are reacting, see what they're liking, and then begin to think, okay, so we need to play it like this or like that. So just be sort of step back in the room, you know, and focus on number one, focus on your team, and then look about what's going on. Don't rush, kind of. And I think it's happening now. I think there's like this 6-7 week, whatever we're in, 8 weeks, moment where there's a shift happening and everyone's still observing, and I think that's a good thing. I think if you just rush and decide to go on a whole other tangent, that could be a bit of a disaster. So yeah, firstly, I'd say sit back and just try and keep a level head if you can. And then, yeah, the second kind of area I was mentioning to you was about connection and collaborating. So, like I say, with your team, connect with them, check in on them, pick up the phone once a week to them directly and say, are you okay? You know, you're going to have to do that. You need to do that. Organization, and then equally pick up the phone to your suppliers and your industry and go, how are you doing? You know, I think we don't talk enough, you know, and you feel so much better when someone's, and at the moment, what we found is people are being honest and they're going, oh my God, this is tough.
Yeah.
And if you do that,
yeah,
you kind of go, oh, okay, it's not just me, and that's brilliant. You know, we can do this together. I mean, we've done it recently with another event supplier, and you know, we're all getting together now. We're getting on a webinar that's going to go out globally, hopefully, to help the industry lift up again. You know, you don't know what comes of a conversation. You know, so we pick up the phone to our printers and kind of go, how are you? You know, are you okay? And makes them feel better, makes you feel better. So talk. But I think in that point, the most important thing also, though, is support for yourself. I think that is vital, regardless of our situation at the moment. You need support. You need, if you can, you need your family support, your partner support. You need a network, your friends. You know, there's going to be some good friends. I can see one of our friends has just joined the Medicine Garden, and Dom and Paul, who are both, we've always been like that with each other's business, and we help each other out just by talking, you know. And it's really important to do that. And then it is true, a problem shared is a problem halved. So get on the phone. If you can get yourself a mentor, find a mentor. Just approach someone in the industry who you think are kind of like investment for the moment. I mean, like, no, we've done 2 years and this is what we need to do. And you know what, we should have listened, and we didn't. We should have got the team first, then the machine, and we didn't listen. And it was that little, but that's the benefit of hindsight, and that's something you have to learn from all of these things. And they help you do that, you know, which is great. So yeah, it's kind of, and then obviously for our industry, there's creativity. You know, when you've got your head together, be creative if you can. It's not that easy at the moment. I'm finding it hard. At the beginning of lockdown, you know, we found out our kids were off school, and we're like, oh my God, what do we do? I lost my father, as you know, in the first week. And I, for one, was like, I can't create. I can't suddenly think, oh my God, what are we going to do for everybody? So Dom was great, and he began the work on what we were going to do. And then I joined when I could. So be kind to yourself. You might not be able to do it right now, and that's all right as well. So whilst people are pivoting and changing, you don't necessarily have to. Our industry has been amazing to watch, because caterers and people like that are doing frontline work, making food for the NHS. Our own laser cutters have been cutting PPE for the NHS.
Wow.
But it's all for free, you know, and that's absolutely fine, don't get me wrong. But those people have still got this underlying stress happening of like, oh my God, what's happening to my business? So yeah, just create if you can. If you can't, that's fine too. You know, our response, because we didn't have the machines in our hands, Chris was dealing with that, and he did an amazing job. Our response was to create these, the positivity packs for people working from home, because we were like, well, we need to design something that's going to help here. And we created a product within 3 weeks. It was done. Normally it would take months. And so that was our response to it. Equally, we've had days of going, what are we doing? Why are we making ourselves go through all this? But I think it's a natural business owner thing to do. You want to try and help out if you can.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you can't, that's okay too, I'd say. So yeah, I think it's a funny balance at the moment between everything.
It is. I think there has been, at least, and to a certain extent still is, a huge amount of pressure to suddenly come up. I was talking last week with Kitty from Subject Matter Art, to come up with the next brilliant, incredible idea that's somehow going to change the industry at this time when you just need to cope. And I think, you know, you're right. There are just sort of taking the time to watch and observe, and a moment of creativity may well come in response to something that really strikes a chord with you and with the business and what fits for you. And if that is, you know, creating a new product that's going to help at this time, it will find its moment to come to fruition. Which sounds like
it's got to come from the right place. You can't be. I don't mean going out and getting an opportunity to, oh well, let's create a product for this. Absolutely not. It has to come from. There needs to be a purpose for you, and there needs to be a purpose for the situation we're in. You know, if not, don't force it. It doesn't matter. You can be creative in other ways right now. You can be creative by just taking the time out and sitting back and going, okay, we've just been given the gift of some time. Let's reevaluate everything. Is this what we want to be doing? Are we going in the right direction? Be creative for when we're out of all of this, if you have to be. Set it all up. You know, everyone's in a unique situation. It is a gift to be given the moment to stop and go, oh, okay, let's reevaluate, you know. So there's different takes on it, I think.
No, I think you're absolutely right.
So, yeah, and then I think the last two, I know I'm aware of time, but it's basically about your mindset, I think, and just learning from the situation. You know, on a basic level, when we were going through this last year, we know a business needs at least a 3-month run rate in the bank, just in case a crisis happens. You know, that's something we learned. On another level, you need to be prepared that, you know, back in the day, we didn't even think a general election. We were like, why would that affect our business? But of course it's going to affect our business. We work with corporates and luxury brands, you know, so you need to kind of learn from all these little things that you're being thrown at you, rather than going down about it. Take from it the good and go, okay, so what have we learned from that? Yeah, it was a shitty time, but what have we learned? Like, and then implement it in the new business going forward. I think that's kind of the biggest learning we've had from it. And then finally, kind of accepting this is happening. You know, this. I think at the beginning we were all like, oh my God, what's going on? But this is happening, and I think the world for some of us is going to be quite a different place. So accept that. Don't go look back on this constantly going, oh my God, this is a nightmare. You know, that's not going to serve you well day to day. I think kind of just looking and going, well, what's our legacy going to be through this? Is it we just got to get through this with our family, which is absolutely fine, because someone said at the beginning to me, or I read it somewhere, think about how your kids are going to look back on this and how they felt. And I was like, God, that's really powerful. I don't want my kids to look back on this time and go, oh yeah, that was the time mum and dad were really stressed and you know, it was awful. That's important. And don't get me wrong, they are going to look back at this time and say, yeah, they were really stressed. But equally, we've had a lot of good times and family time, and you know, it's served us well as a family as well. It's been really hard, but so it's the same for your business. How are you gonna, you know, you might not have a business that can work on the front line and help people. That's fine. You don't need to come up with a vaccine, but use the time to think, well, you know, where are we going to be going in the future?
Yeah.
You know, is there an exciting new development happening because of this? Equally, oh, I've realised I don't want that anymore, and I'm going to work like this now, you know? So I think acceptance and mindset kind of come together, if you like. But it's a kind of it's a huge topic.
It is a huge topic, and I think, you know, we're all learning a lot of this on the journey, and it's interesting talking to you, listening to all of the points you're making, and you've accumulated this experience over years of having been through similar bumps, and there are things that I can certainly say I've been benefiting from without necessarily recognizing the fact that this is really useful tools to take forward as well. You know, the collaboration piece, for example, you know, sort of checking in and tapping into, as Laura called it from a few weeks back, the bigger brain, which has been a lifesaver right now, you know, as a sole founder, but then also, you know, being in a situation which is pretty intense. Also having a baby makes it even a layer more difficult, but just not being able to get out and have those coffees, which we all regularly have, you know, working in business. You've got to find some other avenues, and reaching out to people. And I think the level of humanity, so to speak, that's sort of bubbled up during this phase, particularly within the business space, is something to really embrace right now. And I think as a business owner, benefit from, so to speak, for your own sort of mental state of just, you know, we're social creatures. We need to.
And don't assume that everyone else is okay and got it together because they put it on Instagram today. They probably put it on today because it's the first time they're feeling just about all right to be posting something on there. You know, I think everyone has got something going on behind the scenes, and maybe they need someone today. So it's just talking, isn't it, really? And we kind of immediately go a bit inward when the shit hits the fan, which is silly because you need to, you know, talk to your support network, and sometimes that's showing a bit of vulnerability is not a bad thing either. I think it's really important. We're all human, and I think the way business is now is, you know, it's a bit like when you're with employees, it's no longer this archaic, you know, them and you. But your employees are part of you. They're an extension of your team, of you and your brain. You know, I think if you're a decent human, you like them. You're not going to treat them badly. So, you know, it's the same all over. We are human, and I think there's this tendency to just pretend everything's all right when it's okay to have days where it's not okay, or you're not okay. And so it's a bit like everything, you know, you have to talk and pick up the phone and be available for people. But if you're having a bad day, you know, look after yourself as well. Go for that walk, or it's amazing an hour out, you know, what that does to you.
Absolutely. I think, and I think that's the thing. We're all rushing. We've been rushing. The rushing was the norm up until this point, and we've had practically, literally the brakes put on. Yeah. And if we still continue to rush, you'll only implode. We can't go anywhere. So these forced moments are, I left the house the other day in a point of near explosion, and I walked, and I was like, it's so simple, but it's so important. And the ideas that come flooding in those moments, and you said at the beginning, making the time to do that may seem like a luxury, but there is always 10 minutes, 15 minutes, even if you can organise the day.
And in the past, I've always made the excuse of, no, I can't go. And what I've done recently is just gone, I'm going. And I've left the house in this, God knows what's happening. But I'm like, I'm going. I got to go and get my head together.
Yeah.
They're fine. We come back, they're fine.
Yeah.
Obviously Dom's here, but but it's kind of like, oh yeah, it's you need to be a bit selfish sometimes, I think.
And you need to do it. You need to do it for yourself, but you also, you know, if you want to flip it on its head, you need to do it for the business. Because if you don't have that, then you can't lead in the way that you want to and need
exactly.
to. And it benefits the business, and then the stimulation and the ideas and inspiration that come back, and you can fall back into that as a creative in the way that you are, is essential for taking the business forward, not just coping, which I think there's a tendency to feel that all we can possibly do at the moment is cope, and I think we have an opportunity here to also be able to bloom somehow from out of the process as we approach it the right way.
Connecting with your team and stuff, you know, give them a Zoom cocktail hour on a Friday and send them gifts in the post. Right, it's an opportunity to really connect with everybody, and you may not feel like it sometimes, but I'm pretty sure if you do, you'll feel better for it. So yeah, absolutely.
Incredible. Thank you so much.
Sorry, I sort of waffled on.
No, it's been so valuable, and it's been lovely to hear you talk, and you know, your wealth of experience is hugely valuable for everyone who's listening.
I hope it can just help a bit.
Definitely. For everyone who's listening and people who are listening after this, Helen's points, her 5 points that she's just taken us through, are on the Pioneering Spirit page, which is engineerspioneers.com/pioneering spirit. And this video will be up on stories the next 24 hours, and we'll put it up on that page so you can have a look and dive into it as you want.
I don't get in front of the camera normally.
No, it's brilliant. And where can people find you if they did want to reach out?
Well, Couture on Instagram is @Couture, which is CUTTURE. Mantle, which is the wellbeing products, is Mantle, MANTEL_joy. So they're both the Instagram channels. So yeah, it'd be nice to see people over there. And we're trying to help people every day on Mantle, just with a bit of positivity. The prompts that we're having on our cards, we're putting up on Instagram. Just they may look very simple, but it's that sort of very small shift in mindset every day to look for the good. And hopefully it might be helping a few people.
I'm sure it is. Yeah. Incredible. Thank you. Just to say, next week we're talking about, to everybody who's listening, we're talking about creating stories with an Engineers Pioneers member, Rachel. So a little bit of a shift again. We're talking about content and storytelling. So look forward to seeing everybody.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah, come and join us. Anyway, thank you, Helen. And
nice to see you.
You too. Enjoy the rest of the day.
You too. Bye.
Bye.